Breaking down sheet goods into the smaller pieces that you need for your projects can be a very difficult task on your own. Imagine taking a 4x8 sheet of plywood, 3/4 of an inch thick, and muscling that across a table saw. Especially for those of you out there who have smaller, lighter weight table saws, you'll end up knocking the saw right over. So I'm going to show you in this video some of the advantages of using a track saw to do the same thing, and in a lot of cases get even better results. Let's go ahead and take a closer look. A track saw is a circular saw that slides along a rail. This particular one is a Festool. It has a plunging action, unlike a regular circular saw that has a fixed depth. And you can adjust the depth of cut on the side. The saw also tilts, has an adjustable speed and a dust port, and that goes for most of the other saws. There's probably 6 or 7 different makers. Grizzly makes one, DeWalt makes one, and then within each saw there's different length of rails, and then with the rails you've got different clamps. The rails have splinter guards on them to where you avoid chip out, whether you're cutting with the grain of the plywood or across the grain, you avoid that chip out. And it's amazing how accurate and how clean of a cut you get with these saws. You probably get a better cut than you're going to actually get on a table saw in most situations without having a massive outfeed table. So we're going to go ahead and get set up. We're cutting some 7 3/16 inch strips off of some 1/2 inch birch plywood. So I'm going to go ahead and show you the setup that I do to make these cuts. I start by setting my dimensions using a square on my smaller rip cuts. Then you just go ahead, get your rail positioned and clamped into place. The next step is getting your saw's depth of cut set. So all I do is slide it to the end of the rail, plunge it, and then bring it up until it's just through the surface of the material. And then I'm making my cuts on top of some insulation board. You can adjust the little splinter guard there, the green thing, and that helps for chip out on the outside of the blade. But on thin materials like this, you're not actually engaging it. It's for more thicker cuts, at least on this saw. You could modify it or make an extra one to work on sheet goods. There's my vacuum popping off. It's not an actual Festool dust collector thing. It's just a shop vac. Normally I kind of tape it on there. But really that's all there is to it when it comes to a track saw. You slap down the rail right on your marks and you make your cut. It's a very nice clean cut, and it has been a great tool in the shop for me. You can see the size of my shop there. There's not a lot of room for really maneuvering plywood around, but so much, so this makes it much easier. Well, I hope this video was helpful in showing you that a track saw can be extremely helpful in breaking down sheet goods. You know, when you buy these sheet goods, they're awkward enough even at a thin thickness. So once you get up in thickness, even a 1/2 inch sheet of plywood can be pretty tricky to maneuver. Just getting it in your shop is hard enough. Putting it across the table saw is that much more difficult. So by being able to just lay it down, whether you're making a rip cut, a cross cut, or plunging out an opening in the plywood, having your material be able to stay still while the saw moves over it is so much easier, safer, convenient, and more efficient use of your actual space, especially for those of you who, like me, have a very small shop. And then in addition of this just being used for cutting things down to a certain dimension, they can also be used for jointing rough sawn lumber, or just lumber that you've planed but you might not have an actual joiner or a joiner long enough to get an accurate jointed edge on your board. So that's my most common use, is in making my farm tables. I plane my boards, I get them all down to their right thickness, I get them all sorted out how I like them, and then I straight edge rip one side and then measure over and then actually rip it to its actual dimensions. I'm using this as a table saw and the joiner, so it works very good for me, and it's not brand specific. I think any of them would work 99% of the time for me. It was just this particular model had that depth of cut that I needed, which was 2.5 inches to cut some of the thicker slabs that I glue up for making my kitchen islands. So whether you buy a ready-made retail track saw or make your own, it's a big improvement. I think that many of you will get a lot out of having in your shops. For a lot of people, it's a bit of a push spending $1,000 plus on a saw like this, but you kind of need to don't think of it within the category of simply a circular saw. It almost can take the place with many procedures as the table saw or a joiner. So if you can't have one of those tools, I do think of this as I'm not going to even say the second best choice, but just it's an alternative. It's not going to do everything that a table saw can do by far, but it still does a whole lot that a lot of you are going to get a lot out of. And like I said, you can make your own. You can take your circular saw and make your own rails out of plywood, and you'll just have to do some figuring. There's tons of people out there have done this, and there's a lot posted online about it. You can check all that out, do some Googling, and see what you can find. But I think that pretty much wraps it up. I would like to hear what a lot of you think about your track saws, who are track saw owners. Let us know what kind of track saw you have, and what are your common tasks for it, and your overall impressions of that particular make and model. Just let us know what you have and what you think. And for those of you who do not have one and have some questions, feel free to post them in the comments below. I'll do my best to give you an answer, and perhaps some other people will be viewing the comments and answer them for me that have more experience with maybe the brand that you're asking about. But I think that'll about wrap up this video. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.
If you'd like to see more videos from me, click the red button on the screen now and you'll get updates when I post future videos. And if you'd like to see more right now, you can go ahead and go over to my channel and see the videos I've posted so far. I also have 2 other YouTube channels regarding a tiny house and renovating a real house, and you can see those videos by clicking the links in the description below. Thanks for watching.